Well, fill it with gas, fill it with oil, check the water, we're ready to roll. It's got no buzzes, no flashing lights, just let you know when the field's alright. One side looks like an old tin can and the hotel down with rubber bands. We tell it our problems and it understands as we roll along the highway, as we roll along the highway. They can't sell their Oldsmobiles, they can't sell their Fords. We all drive an old yellow Datsun with one green door. We all drive an old yellow Datsun with one green door.
You know, it's when you have a garage and you played with cars all your life, you tend to end up with a lot of tools, a lot of parts, and quite often the tools don't get put away, especially when you have 3 boys. And that's normally the case, or used to be the case here, and I'd like to blame them this time, but unfortunately, since none of them are here working in the garage, I've only got myself to blame. So here's some of the mess I've got to clean up over the next few days, so before I can actually do any of the things I want to do. I'll start out at the front of the workbench here. Just junk. Lots of junk sitting around, boxes. I'm notorious for having boxes full of stuff, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with that concept. You just, especially in a garage, you have a coffee can, you fill it with nuts and bolts. When it's full, you start another one, and there's one of my tools boxes. Most of this is specialty stuff. I have some equipment for doing small engines, and all these for body work, you know, body hammers for when I'm doing body work. This cabinet here has power tools, grinders, air tools, stuff like that. My roller cabinets, chests and everything, they're kind of bulging with tools, and I normally hate having messy tools, and when I worked in a shop, I hated it, you know, having tools all over the place, and my toolbox was so organized at work that I could literally roll up on a creeper, reach up and grab one of the tools from the drawer, because I knew where everything was. It had a spot. There were no empty spaces. At a glance, any drawer, I could tell you what tool was missing, and it was great. And then when I came home, I guess because I can just pull the door closed and didn't have to lock my toolboxes, mind you I should have with the boys when they were younger, I basically leave tools out, and not a good thing, but what's done is done. Not hooked up right now, but and with them switching to analog, I guess I'm going to have to run cable out to the garage to run my TV. You know, you have to have some amenities in here. TV, the stereo. Everybody needs air conditioning in their garage. wood stove for heat. And mostly Datsun parts. And a roll around tray for tools, which is being used to sort right now. And everyone needs a bucket full of hoses for a shop vac they don't have anymore, and a spare transmission and engine out of a Datsun Roadster, but that's only to stop me from getting to my engine stand and my 350 horsepower small block Chevy sitting there. And the welder I was just pushing belongs there, but I can't get to it. I got my 110 volt Miller welder buried back there. More parts, Roadster parts, those leaf springs right here, those are brand new competition leaf springs for my Roadster. And those are the competition front springs. And some of the stuff I have organized into little buckets and everything. The saw from my father-in-law, stuff around here, but it's going out to one of my son's places. I don't really need it because what I have here is got a Shopsmith Mark V, which is, those of you who don't know, the Shopsmith Mark V can be used for horizontal boring, drill press, table saw, a lathe, a big disc sander with an attachment on here. There's a little drive shaft that will drive the bandsaw, and there are other attachments that I don't have, but I have at my mom's house attachments that were my dad's. My dad had a Shopsmith since I think it was about 1953. He's had a Mark V Shopsmith, and I grew up making stuff with it. In the early to mid 70s in shop class, I actually made a lamp using gum wood, and I cut little blocks, glued them together in all sorts of different directions, and then stacked them up and glued them all together and clamped them and everything, and put it on a lathe and turned it down and wired it and everything. And I still use that lamp today. It's my reading lamp beside the bed, and I could likely stand to put a new socket on it because it's starting to flicker, or just maybe the wires are frayed inside or something, but I'll have to check it out. But the lamp worked really well in I think it was about 14 when I made it, and actually put it into a handicraft competition at the local exhibition, and won first place for my age group. My dad's had the Shopsmith since '53, and he unfortunately we lost him in 2007. But that Shopsmith was used for everything. He built built the rec room in the house, and we've built my dad made a Dodge van into a camper, had a fiberglass top put onto it, and then built it into a camper that the family used for several years. And we've used it for all sorts of things, making baseboards and a few small lathe projects and stuff like that. And they're fun to work with. And my dad has a lot of the attachments, or his machine, he had a lot of the attachments over the years. He got the jointer, and I don't think he got the planer because he never really got wood that was that big that needed to be planed down. Most of the stuff he did was smaller items. We used to joke about it that because he just sat and fiddled with it a lot when he wasn't making an actual project, that what he made most with the Shopsmith was sawdust. And back in the 70s when the CB craze came out, that was actually his CB name, or his handle was Sawdust. Because I have this Shopsmith and it can be used as a drill press, I have one of these small Chinese made drill presses that served me well for 15 years, and my father-in-law found it for me at a garage sale. It was brand new. Continuing on with the mess, You know, parts for my floor jack and lighting when I work outside. And this is another tool that'll be going to my son's. It's a Craftsman lathe. Works well, and you know, as you can see here, I make sawdust just like my dad. And you know, got my toolbox here. This is fairly well organized. And what this is used for is something I do as a hobby, and I'm not good at it, but I do it anyway, and it's hard to see in there, but those are my pinstriping brushes for pinstriping cars. I got 4 different sizes, and I have done a little bit of it just for fun. And as if those other 2 engines weren't enough, buried under here is actually the engine and transmission from a Nissan 240 SX. And being in a Canadian climate, snowblower. Looks pretty new. It's actually dirty right now because I'm just finishing putting it back together from having I replaced the fuel lines and cleaned out the carburetor because it hadn't been done yet. But this thing's about 15 years old. I wax my snowblower. You know, every year I change the oil and clean it, and I lubricate everything like you're supposed to, but I actually take car wax and wax it. And you know, my kids always wondered why I did that, and reason being is my dad had an Aaron snowblower that was a 60s vintage that he bought used in about 1974, 75, and you know, it was pretty good shape. You know, the original owner you know, used it obviously, but didn't do a lot with it. And my dad got it and he cleaned it up and waxed it, and it looked good. You know, it looked a lot better. And my dad, you know, he would wax it every year when he put it away, and he waxed his car, and he was always obsessed with grease and oil on the driveway and that we had to clean up. But anyway, that snowblower still looks as good as when my dad bought it in the 70s, and it's, you know, 45 years old. You know, it's not nearly as clean as mine is, but that's, you know, you take care of your stuff and it lasts forever. You know, I was thinking of doing one of these daily things like some of you guys do out there, like Mike, and the regular ones like you know, Pete from SWRNC. I love his new one, DIY Auto School. Like, I like the antics of the shop, but and having a separate channel for the DIY where it's no bullshit teaching is good too. I'm learning a lot. I've done my own body work and my own paint jobs and that, but only, you know, I used to play with race cars, and they only had to, you know, look good according to the 50-50 rule. They had to look good, you know, when you're standing 50 feet away and it's driving past you at 50 miles an hour. So when you do street cars and little toys and hot rods, it's a little different story. So anyway, I'll break for lunch, and we'll continue on with my little bit of an introduction to myself.